guys, it's Shadow the Rat, and for today's video, I wanted to do an update video on all of my current rats. So I've already technically done a video like this for this year that was released in early January. However, that video was actually filmed in late November of 2022, and the reason it took me so long to release it was because there was a lot going on in December, so it just didn't really get released until January. And since then, my rat group has changed a lot, partially because I have a lot of older rats, and unfortunately they have passed, but also partially because I have added in some younger rats, as I typically do every year or two, just to keep the group rolling. So I figured with all the changes that have happened this year, I might as well go ahead and just give you an update on my current rats. So I'm going to go in order of the rats that I've had the longest to the rats that I've had the shortest, and that does not correspond exactly to their ages because my rats are kind of all over the place age-wise, and I have adopted several senior rats along with adopted several adults, several babies, and so forth. And as a result, some of my younger rats are going to be the rats that I've had longer, since I've had them since they were babies, versus some of the older rats who I might have had for shorter periods of time, since I adopted them as adults. Anyways, let's go ahead and go through all my rats. So currently I have two different groups of rats. All of them are females. However, 4 live in one group and 4 live in the other group. And this is because one of the rats in one of my groups does not get along with any of the rats in the other group. And she is also very old, so I have just decided to not introduce them until she passes away, which hopefully won't be anytime soon. But because of that, they are living separately. Anyways, so to start with my oldest rat, who is also the troublemaker who makes it impossible to bond the groups, that is my girl Olive. She is currently 2 years and 10 months old, which doesn't sound like a lot if you don't have rats. However, that is actually quite old for rats. They are unfortunately animals that typically live a little over 2 years, although anything between around 1.5 to 2.5 years is unfortunately pretty common. But anyways, Olive herself is very old, and I've had her since she was 5.5 weeks old, so I've had her pretty much her entire life. She's probably one of the rats that I've had the longest out of all my rats. And she is an amazing rat. Other than her intro issues, she's pretty much perfect. She is super great with her cage mate. She's super confident with people. She's very friendly. She's very outgoing. She's just a really great rat. She's very easy to train. She's so much fun to be with. I mean, I've taken her to a lot of events where she goes and meets people, and she goes on her little harness. She does really well in these sorts of situations, which is really cool. It's definitely one of those things that really stands out about her because she's one of those rats that you really can't phase. She's just always confident and sweet and outgoing, and she's just one of those rats that I hope everyone gets to experience. Now, I got Olive from a local college professor. She got her original rats from some breeder that was several hours away, and basically she got them under a contract where she was allowed to breed 1 litter, and then she would have the male neutered. And the reason she wanted to breed 1 litter is because she does a lot of these events and fundraisers for the local college, and she runs the animal section of that. So basically she brings out animals that are typically not seen in great lights by the public, and she educates people about them. So she needs animals that are obviously pretty confident and outgoing and do good in novel situations, because, well, you don't want an animal that's going to bite or be nervous when meeting people, because that's not going to give them a very good impression, and it would also just be very stressful on the animal, which wouldn't be fair. So she wanted to get some well-tempered rats that she could breed and then socialize the babies and basically take them out on these events. So that's exactly what she did, but because rats tend to have very large litters, she ended up with more babies than she needed for this program. So she ended up adopting them out using the local Facebook rat group, which is called Rat Enthusiast of Virginia. I'm in Virginia, so I'm part of that group as well. Anyways, that's where I saw her ad listing some babies who needed homes, and so I went ahead and asked her if she had any babies left, and she had 2 females left, which were my girls Olive and Donut. And Olive is this current rat that I'm talking about, but Donut was her late sister, who unfortunately passed a few weeks back, but she was also very long-lived and a really amazing rat. And I also ended up getting a 3rd girl from the breeder later on, when she ended up having some males returned to her. Not because the males had any sort of issues going on, but because the owner was moving to housing that was not pet friendly, so she had to return them. But because of that, she ended up with more rats than she really needed for, again, her programs. So she ended up asking me if I wanted to adopt another of the females, which I was definitely on board with, and that is how I ended up getting Olive and Donut's sister Pickle, who unfortunately has also passed as well. But anyways, all 3 girls were really amazing, and Olive herself continues to be a really amazing rat. She's just so special and just really incredible in every way. I really adore Olive. She's definitely one of my favorite rats ever. And even though she's older now and not quite as active as she used to be, she's still so enthusiastic and just so happy to see you and just really an amazing rat. So yeah, that's pretty much Olive's story, and she is my current oldest rat in my lower group of 4. So the next rats I'm going to talk about are my dwarf girls, Butter and Toast, and they are currently my only biological siblings, at least in this rat group, or I should say groups. And I ended up getting both girls at the same time, which was a little over a year ago, which is why I'm kind of talking about them at the same time. But both girls are dwarf rats, and they're a little over a year and a half old now. And Butter is the Harley rat, which basically means she has long fur, while Toast has standard fur, which basically means she has the typical slick down fur that most rats have. Now, of the two, Butter is definitely the more confident one, at least when it comes to people. She's very outgoing with people, very friendly, very explorative. She learns tricks super quickly. She's definitely one of my favorite rats to train because she's so motivated and just so much fun to train with. And she's just really a really sweet and friendly rat in general. She's just so much fun to be with, and she's so silly and just really loves interacting with people and also other rats. She's really easy to introduce to other rats, although she does like to push them around a little bit, which is pretty funny because she's so small. But she definitely gets over this very quickly, and she never escalates very far. So she does really well with other rats. And yeah, Butter's just a really sweet rat. She really likes to groom you. She really likes to be on your shoulder. She's just really sweet and outgoing in general. She is a little bit more dramatic than her sister when it comes to other rats. That is to say, she is more quick to squeak if she doesn't like something, like if another rat is coming too close to her treat, then she will definitely squeak at them. But she does get along really well with the other rats, including the other rats that she's not cage mates with. So in general, she's just a really overall great rat. And as for her sister Toast, Toast is a little bit less human friendly. That is to say, she's still fine with being picked up and pet and so forth, but she's not quite as in-your-face interactive as Butter is. She's definitely more of a rat's rat. She will go and boss the other rats around, which is pretty funny because she's very small. She's actually currently my smallest dwarf rat. Well, I think she's my smallest. She and Butter tend to kind of variate within 5 to 10 grams of each other. But anyways, Toast definitely has a little bit of a shorty complex. She likes to go around and boss around the other rats, especially the larger ones. But she is really good friends with all of them. And hilariously, all the other rats do let her boss them around, so it does seem to work out quite well for them. And Toast definitely seems very happy with her status as top rat in the cage, even though it's very funny from my perspective. As far as training goes, Toast is a little bit of a space cadet, so to speak, as in she is not the best at focusing. I'm not trying to be mean to her, but she's definitely one of the least focused rats I've ever had. That has changed a lot recently, though. She actually recently mastered Fetch, which took her about a year to learn. Typically, rats take between 1 to 3 weeks to learn it, so that just kind of gives you an example of the fact that Toast was just a little bit behind in that regard. But she did eventually learn it, and once she does know a trick, she's really good at remembering it. So with things like agility, which she's known forever at this point, I mean, she started training them at like 10 weeks old, she has those down pat, and now that she's learned Fetch, she also seems to have it down pat. So, you know, once she learns something, it definitely sticks with her. It can just take her a little bit longer to learn it. But yeah, Toast is a sweet little rat, and she and Butter are just really great little dwarfs. I forgot to mention, but the reason that I got dwarf rats is because they are much less prone to tumors than standard rats, and so typically live a little bit longer than standards. And while I can't say if that's true or not so far, given that I've only had 4 dwarf rats and I've had like 40 plus standard rats, I will say that Butter and Toast have been pretty healthy so far. Butter did have a UTI scare earlier this year. However, she is completely fine and just needed 2 weeks of antibiotics, so it wasn't like a big deal, and she recovered very quickly from that. So yeah, in general, both girls have been very healthy, and I expect them to continue to be healthy. Anyways, moving on from Butter and Toast, we have my rat Blueberry. Blueberry comes from a rescue in Northern Virginia called Second Chance Heroes Rat Rescue, and they're really amazing. They do such a good job of helping all the rats in the area, and in fact, to get Blueberry to me, they drove her 7 hours. So, you know, that is quite the trip. And, you know, I never expected them to be willing to drive her so far because at the time I did not have access to a car. But they were just absolutely amazing. They went above and beyond to help get some rats to me because they actually transported Blueberry and her late sister Banana to me. and that was about a year ago because I got them a day after I got Butter and Toast. Yeah, it was kind of a hectic time for my rats, but this rescue was really incredible, and I'm still just so in awe of them. I definitely plan to get more rats from them at some point because I feel like they're definitely a great rescue to support, and I have taken part in their yearly fundraiser, so if you want to support a good rat rescue, I definitely recommend checking them out. But anyways, Blueberry herself is an incredible little rat. Like I mentioned, I got her with her sister Banana, and unfortunately both girls were rehomed because Banana was severely cage aggressive and unfortunately ended up biting a child. So she just wasn't safe to have in that home anymore, so they had to rehome her to a rescue. And they did originally come from a pet shop, but anyways, unfortunately, that was why they were given to a rescue in the first place. They did really well at the rescue, and as someone who has dealt with cage-aggressive rats in the past, I was okay with getting some cage-aggressive rats, because I don't have any young children around, and I don't mind respecting their boundaries, which is really the big thing you have to do with cage-aggressive rats, because they typically are very territorial and aggressive about their space, so you really have to work with them outside it before you can start working with them inside it. Anyways, unfortunately Banana really got the short end of the stick because not only was she cage aggressive, but she also developed a terminal brain tumor when she was only 19 months old. So I did unfortunately have to have her put to sleep right when she turned 20 months because she wasn't responding to medication. So that was a really difficult situation, but thankfully Blueberry had bonded really well to my other rats, Butter, Toast, and Olive. Blueberry herself has done really well with her remaining cage mates. Blueberry is now over 2 years old, and she is a very chill rat. She's great with other rats. She can be a little bit feisty when you first introduce her to other rats, but she settles down pretty quickly, and she gets along really well with them. In fact, my youngest girls right now are around 6 months, and Blueberry gets along exceptionally well with them. She lets them jump all over her and cuddle with her, and she just really seems to love them, which is super sweet. Now, Blueberry herself has always been more chill than Banana was. However, even Blueberry had some cage aggression. It was just more mild. However, she actually did end up outgrowing it, which is pretty interesting because I have never seen a rat completely outgrow cage aggression before. But Blueberry's case was extremely mild, so I think that definitely helped. And also at this point, since her sister has passed, I think that might have also influenced her behavior some, since her sister was definitely the more severe of the two, even though she did make really good progress with me. And she hadn't had an incident since pretty much when I first got her. But yeah, she's a very sweet rat, very chill, and because of how well she does now with people and things in her space, she's actually also done some events with me with Olive and Donut. When Donut was still around. Now I do it with Olive, Blueberry, Butter, and Toast. But she is a very chill rat. She's very sweet. She does very well meeting new people. She's just kind of your typical chill older rat who also enjoys treats a lot, which makes her very easy to train. So a very nice mellow girl. Moving on from Blueberry, we have the 4 rats in my other group, which is my second group. And that starts with my girl Tater Tot. So Tater Tot is my 3rd dwarf rat, and she is currently my 2nd oldest rat at 2 years and 4 months. And I got Tater Tot when she was on the older side. She was around 1 year and 7 months when I got her, so not exactly a young rat, but also not super old, especially for a dwarf rat. Anyways, Tater Tot herself is doing really well at her age. She has no tumors, no health issues. She's just a really happy and sweet little rat. Tater Tot is a little bit chunky. She does seem to have the obesity that is associated with some dwarf lines. Ethical breeders who breed dwarfs have pretty much bred this out of any dwarf lines that they have. However, I don't know where Tater Tot came from because I got her from a rehoming situation. Essentially, at the end of January in this year, I saw a post on the Rat Enthusiast of Virginia Facebook page that I mentioned before from someone who was just 5 minutes away from me who had to rehome their 3 senior female rats. And they had developed some health issues which were making it impossible to care for the rats. So understandably, they wanted to make sure the rats were going to a good home that could care for them. And the rats at that point were all quite old. One was my girl Potato. She was over 2 years old when I got her. And the other 2 were the dwarf girls, French Fry and Tater Tot. And they were, again, around 1 year and 7 months when I got them. But anyways, when I got those girls, they were all pretty chunky, so I did my best to get them to lose some weight, and it worked really well with French Fry and Potato. But unfortunately, Tater Tot, while she did lose some weight, she never did quite as well as the other 2, which is why I think that she probably had some genetic link to obesity, because pretty much the only way to get her to lose weight is to starve her, and at her age, it's just not really worth the stress. So I just work on helping her to maintain her current weight, and that's pretty much enough. She doesn't have any mobility issues or anything like that, so I'm not too concerned about her because she's doing really well for an older rat. Now you might notice that I mentioned 2 other rats, Potato and French Fry, and unfortunately those rats have passed away. Potato seemed to have some sort of stroke when she was around 2 years and 3 months, and she ended up passing away shortly after. And in French Fry's case, she ended up developing a very rare type of cancer called a Zimbel's gland tumor. It's a facial tumor, and it's just so deep in the face that you can't remove it, and there's very minimal treatment options, so ultimately we had to have her put to sleep as well. And unfortunately, Zimbel's gland tumors are one of the tumors that dwarf rats do not resist. However, they are pretty rare in rats, and I've only seen 2 out of 40 plus rats, and it's not one of those things you tend to see a lot. So unfortunately, when it does pop up, it's usually just being very unlucky. But Tater Tot herself has thankfully continued to do very well. She unfortunately lost her sister French Fry when they were about 23 months old, but Tater Tot is now several months older than that and continues to do very well. So thankfully she is doing just fine. She does have other cage mates. Currently they are 3 younger rats, and she gets along with them very well, and they definitely do a really good job of just cuddling with her, grooming with her, and just overall being great cage mates and great buddies. So yeah, Tater Tot is doing quite well. As for her personality, she's a fairly timid rat. She's okay with people. However, I have the feeling that when she was a baby, she was probably pretty skittish, because she does remind me a lot of my rats who I got as babies who were naturally skittish, but who with age ended up gaining some confidence, but just still remained kind of timid. And that's exactly how Tater Tot acts. It's just kind of her natural personality. She doesn't mind being handled or pet or anything like that, but she is more independent. She likes to kind of do her own thing. She is very sweet once you're handling her. She's not going to struggle or try to get away, but clearly she does enjoy just kind of doing her own thing and being left to her own devices most of the time. So that's kind of what I let her do. Now I do trick training with Tater Tot as well, and she has learned quite a few fun tricks. So that is definitely one way we bond, and she really enjoys that sort of interaction, especially when I train with her and the other rats, because she really loves her ratty buddies. She is a little bit timid when it comes to intros. She's not really great with other rats that are pushy with her. However, if the other rats aren't being too pushy, then she's very quick to accept them, and she never tries to push around the other rats or do anything like that. So she was kind of the perfect rat to introduce to my younger girls, because she really gave them a good role model in terms of just being very sweet and chill and not really trying to push them around or anything like that, which is really nice. So now let's move on to my last 3 girls, which are my girls Tofu, Raisin, and Popcorn. Now these 3 girls all come from the same breeder. However, that being said, they're not actually related. They actually come from different litters, which you probably can tell considering that they look very different. Well, granted, rats can have very different siblings, biologically that is, depending on the recessives that the parents carry, but in these cases, these girls do come from different litters that are unrelated. However, they were bonded very young by the breeder because I reserved them when they were pretty young, and they didn't come home with me until they were 10 weeks old. So the breeder just ended up bonding them before I got them, which is very easy when they're young, especially if they have really nice temperaments like these girls do. Anyways, I got all 3 girls on June, I think like 7th or 8th of this year, and I got them from Unheavenly Creatures, which is a rattery in Virginia. I did have to drive a little bit to get them. They are located about 2.5 hours away from me one way. Well, a little bit longer with traffic, unfortunately. And originally I was going to meet the breeder halfway to kind of make things a little easier. However, unfortunately, I couldn't find a way for our schedules to mesh, so I just ended up making the drive myself. And that ended up going just fine, and the girls did really well with that trip. Anyways, once I got them home, I was very happy to see that all 3 girls adjusted really well. They were all very confident and friendly from the start, so that really wasn't an issue. As far as the individual rats go, Popcorn, which again is the Golden Siamese girl, she is very sweet and outgoing, especially with the other rats. She's also very sweet with people. You can pick her up very easily. She's very easy to pet. She will tuck her feet up when you pick her up, which is super cute. And just in general, she's very sweet. She likes to climb all over you. She's just a really cool little rat. Although I would say, like Toast, she is a little bit more of a rat's rat than a people rat. She does not mind being handled or pet or anything like that, and she will readily come up to you and interact, but she definitely seems to enjoy interacting with the other rats a little bit more, which is just fine. For me, as long as the rat is receptive to handling and does enjoy interaction, I don't mind if they are a little bit more of a rat's rat, especially because I typically have large groups of rats, so it's not uncommon to have, rats of various temperaments, which is kind of one of the draws of rats because I like seeing different temperaments in different rats. But anyways, Popcorn is definitely a very sweet rat, and she's very easy to train with. She knows tons of tricks. She was my first rat to pick up Fetch from these 3 girls. And yeah, she's just a really cool little rat in general, and I really adore her. Moving on to my second rat, the second one I'm going to talk about is my girl Tofu. Tofu is a recessive hairless, and that just means that she's mostly hairless, as you can probably tell by the name. She's a very sweet little rat. She comes from a healthy line, so she shouldn't have any of the health issues that some hairless lines can be prone to, which is specifically eye and skin issues. But Tofu, thankfully, has not had any of those issues. And like I mentioned, she comes from a line which has proven to be healthy in those regards. Anyways, of the 3 rats, Tofu is definitely the most independent when it comes to other rats. She kind of likes to do her own thing, and it's just super cute to see her exploring and just really enjoying herself. She does really love the other rats, and she also likes interacting with people, but she especially likes to explore, and I think that's kind of like her #1 thing. And if you're the one who's giving her the opportunity to explore, then she's going to adore you for that, which has definitely been the key to her heart. And yeah, she's a very sweet little rat, very easy to pick up. She's definitely gained a lot of confidence since I first got her. She was very easy to handle and pet and so forth from the start. However, I noticed that she was the one who was most likely to react to like loud noises and so forth, at least when I first got her, and now that is not the case. She's now very good at not overreacting to like sounds or anything like that, and she's a lot more confident and just outgoing in general. As far as training goes, Tofu also really likes to train. She knows tons of tricks like fetch and agility and walking on a barrel and so forth, and she really enjoys training and seems to really enjoy figuring things out, which makes training especially fun with her. Now, as for my 3rd rat, that's my girl Raisin. She is a werewolf, also known as a true patchwork, and basically that just means that she loses and grows fur in different patterns that change every few days. And this fur loss and growth happens in a bilateral symmetrical manner, which just means that it happens on both sides in the same way. And just like hairless rats, some werewolves can be prone to some issues with their eyes and skin. However, just like my hairless girl Tofu, Raisin comes from a line of werewolves that has proven to be healthy for many generations, so she should not have any extra issues and should be a very healthy rat. As far as personality goes, Raisin is super outgoing and people-oriented. She's super sweet, she loves to be handled and pet, she's just always on you, she loves to be on your shoulders. She is a super outgoing and people-oriented rat, and she's definitely one of my favorites personality-wise. There's always going to be some rats that you kind of favor personality-wise over others, and while all my rats are currently quite confident and outgoing, Raisin is definitely one of the most confident and outgoing, and she's just such a perfect little rat, and I adore her in every way. Raisin loves to play, she loves to hand wrestle, she loves to chase tissues, she's super bouncy and she's always bouncing around, which is super cute. She also likes to cuddle with the other rats, and she especially likes my older girl Blueberry. She's always curling up and following her around. It's just super cute. Basically, she's just a really sweet and adorable little rat. As far as training goes, she's also quite good at that. She's really good at agility in general. A little bit less good at item tricks, but she's getting there. But as far as agility goes, that's like her forte, and she picks up new agility courses super quickly, and she always loves them so much that she'll end up doing them even without me cueing her. It's kind of funny, like I'll set up the agility course and she'll start doing it before I even tell her what order. She just gets so excited to do it. It's super cute. So yeah, Raisin is a really awesome rat, and she gets along well with all my other rats, and just in general, she is a really great rat. So yeah, that is pretty much all I have to say about my current 8 rats. All of them are super sweet and just amazing little rats, and I feel so lucky to have them. I'm especially grateful that Olive in particular is still around, and I hope all my other rats in my current group get to live to Olive's age or older, because it's so nice to have a rat that stays healthy and lives so long, and that unfortunately is not always the experience you have with rats. So I would very much like to have more rats like Olive out there. Thank you very much. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the rats. I hope you guys enjoyed getting to meet my rats, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!